Hey guys, so I have my last reading wrap up of 2021 and this is going to cover the months of November and December, and in total I read 18 books in those 2 months and it was pretty good, but I did have a lot of average to 3-star reads. So as usual with my wrap ups, I'm going to be doing this in my least favorite to my favorite, and I'm also adding a different element because there are so many books that I have to review. I'm keeping it very short and I'm really just going to be sharing like my pros and cons for each of the books that I talk about. If you want to learn anything more about these books, just check them out on Goodreads because I'm not going to be doing like a full review for them. So let's get started because I do have a lot of books to talk about. So I do have one 2-star read, and that's Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. I believe this is the 3rd book in her Bridgerton series, and unfortunately I had the highest hopes for this one because it is Penelope and Colin's story and I really love their story in the show Bridgerton. I literally wrote prose and then I didn't really write any prose because I didn't really like this book. Cons, it was really all about Whistledown and I felt like it detracted from the romance, so not a big win for me. In my 3-star category, like I said, I have a lot of 3 stars, so let's just jump into them in no particular order. I have The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. So pros, this is a holiday romance. This woman, she writes holiday romances, but she herself is Jewish and it's a big secret. So pros, she has chronic fatigue syndrome and she talks all about that, and it was really enlightening to hear about chronic fatigue syndrome, and that was like my favorite element to the whole story. Cons, the romance, I just didn't really feel it, and also they were holding grudges against each other from when they were both 12 years old, which I just felt was like a little bit strange. Like they should have moved on. They're in their 30s now or late 20s when this book takes place. So those are my pros and cons for that one. Next I have The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. Pros, this is a holiday story. There's baking involved and there is a nice small town element, but cons, I didn't really care for any of the romances. It was just a little bit boring to me. Next, I have The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayless, and this one is really more of like a 3.5-star read, so I did like this one marginally more than my other 3-star reads. Pros, it has the most Christmassy small town in England and I just want to live there year round. It was so wonderful to read about, and also this book had an interesting concept with this woman going on 12 different dates in the month of December. The con was that it didn't really feel like a romance. It really just felt like her exploring all these other dates, so not really what I wanted. Next is The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Agaro. The pros was that this was a really easy book to read and there were interesting family dynamics, but the con for me, the romance was just kind of cheesy and it fell flat, and I felt like this book lacked a lot of depth that it really could have due to the subject matter that it was about. My last 3-star read is really a 3.5-star read, and that's To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. This is the 4th Bridgerton book. It's Eloise's story. So pros, I felt like this book did have a lot of depth to it because our main character is a widower and his wife died in a really unfortunate way, and I also loved how he got to know his children, his 8-year-old twins, who he never really got to know his whole life. My only con for this, I said, was I didn't totally love it. I couldn't exactly put my finger on what there was missing for me. So not much of a con, but I just couldn't figure out what was missing. Let's go into my 4-star reads. I have The Viscount Who Loved Me. Let's continue with more Bridgerton books. This is the 2nd book. It's Antony's story. So the pro is that it got me back into the Bridgerton series, and no real cons for this one. I really enjoyed this romance. Next is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So this is a thriller. It has an academic setting and there's a lot of friends revealing secrets throughout the whole book. But my con for this was that it didn't really live up to the hype completely for me. I feel like other people loved it a lot more, and while I enjoyed it, I just wasn't on that level. Then I have another holiday romance, and that's Always in December by Emily Stone. Pros, this is a Christmas book, but it's not really that Christmassy. It did have a heavier topic, and this book spanned a few years and dealt with an element of fate, which I really enjoyed. Cons, it just wasn't what I was expecting in a romance, but I don't know if that's really a con because I also liked that part of it too. Next is Blame It on the Mistletoe by Beth, Garrett. This, I didn't know, is young adult, and I actually really enjoyed this one. Pros for this one, it was lighthearted and sweet. I also liked the holiday swap element. One of the girls lives in England and one lives outside of New York City and they swap. My only con, the one character I didn't like half of the story, was the social media influencer. I just felt like she manipulated all these situations just for this competition that she was in, and that's all that mattered to her was followers and likes, and engaging in her online content, and I did not like that at all. My last 4-star read is Mistletoe Christmas by its 4 authors because it is a short story anthology. So it's by Eloisa James, Christy Caldwell, Jana McGregor, and Erica Ridley. I've never read any of these authors before, so pros, I got introduced to a lot of new historical romance authors that I want to check out. Pros, it took place all at the same estate during this Christmas party, like a 2-week event. Another pro, I feel like there's something everyone can love from this because there are 4 short stories. There's different types of stories within it, so I just feel like this has a thing for everybody, and I didn't really have any cons. So now I have some 4.5 stars. So next one is An Offer from a Gentleman. This is book 3 or book 4. They all get blurred in the Bridgerton series. So this is Benedict's story. The pro is that this was a Cinderella retelling and there were no cons. I super loved this book, like a lot. It was so good. Next 4.5 star read is The Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor. So pros, this is all told in letters between a sister and her brother who's fighting in World War II, and also between the sister and her brother's best friend, and it's like the slow falling in love. I just loved the way the story was told. The only con was I felt like the ending didn't live up to all that we had been building the whole entire book, so it was just a little bit of a letdown for me. I have one more 4.5 star read, and then I have a few 5 stars. So next 4.5 star is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Pro, we get another book by the slow burn romance queen. I loved this. It was really good. There was so much to love about it. The found family in this story, the like broody dark male character, and all like his hidden past that kind of comes out in the book. Just overall, all pros, no real big cons for this one. So now I'm going into my 5-star section, and these are really in no particular order. So Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. The biggest pro is that the main character is Ted Lasso, like 100%. He was based on Ted Lasso. He seems exactly like Ted Lasso in A Christmas Story. And also a big pro for this Christmas romance was that it didn't feel as lighthearted and cheesy as some of the other Christmas romances I've read. Like, it actually felt like this had depth, which only enhanced the romance, and there are no cons. Next is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, another 5-star read. I'm someone else who's obsessed with this book. The biggest pro is Adam. The character of Adam is just the most sweetest, kind, caring person, and he just makes you melt and gush. He's just like so amazingly sweet. There is a con though. This book did get a little bit cheesy at times, so it still earned all of its 5 stars, but this one did have a bit of a con. It was a little bit cheesy, but I just loved it so much I overlooked the cheesiness. My last 5-star read, my last book I need to talk about, is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. My pro for this is that it's a very different setting from historical fiction that I've read. It's also Christian romance historical fiction, and it takes place in California during like the gold rush time. The biggest pro for this story was it was a romance, but it was also a story of redemption, of Angel like learning about Jesus and coming to know him, and also it was such a wonderful marriage to read about, and how her husband continually pursued her even when she was like at her worst and feeling at her worst and wanting to run away constantly. There was just so much love there, and like it was the pursuit of Michael and the pursuit of God, and it was just such a redeeming and beautiful story, and I will be obsessed with this forever. I've read it 3 times now, so I'm very excited for the movie to come out. So that is gonna wrap up my last wrap up of 2021. I'm sorry for all the Christmas talk. I know we are so over it, but I did have those books to share in the last few months of the year. I would also love to know, did you like this whole pro-con thing? I feel like it kept me going through the books quicker, but also I wasn't able to talk as much about all the individual books. So just let me know if you liked that format, if I should continue with that in the future. It definitely felt like a little bit easier and less overwhelming to come up with a few points for each book I read. So anyway, that's gonna wrap up my last wrap up. Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading.